My name is Kevin. I am a principal software engineer at Pioneer Square Labs in Seattle. And this is JACoB. So JACoB stands for Just Another Coding Bot. And as we've seen over the past year, AI coding has become a breakout hit. This is something that has been a key use case for AI and has been one of the biggest areas of investment over the past 9 months or so. It's been over $1 billion put into AI coding startups. In fact, have you seen the latest YC application? Looks something like this. Feels like every other company out there is taking what's working with Cursor and with GitHub Copilot and trying to clone it and come up with their own version. But there's a lot of problems with using legacy tools and trying to shoehorn AI into them. Everybody talks about the amazing benefits. You get 10x more code that you get to write. But that means you need to review 10 times more code. You need new tools to be able to work through this new way of working with AI effectively. And so at Pioneer Square Labs, this is something we've been dealing with over the past 18 months as we've been using AI for coding. And we took a step back and thought, what is the right process to combine the human and AI capabilities into a system that really works for us on a day-to-day basis, that accelerates our workflow and takes advantage of the path forward that we see with AI and coding. There's a few key components here. Number one, it doesn't work unless it's integrated with existing tools. That means it hooks up to GitHub to access our code. It uses tools like Figma, which is where we do our designs, or any project management tools, such as Jira or GitHub issues. Also, we're really focused on production code scenarios. There's lots of tools out there that let you make a snake game in 30 seconds. But once you start to do something a little bit more advanced, it falls apart. Now, this is a tool I use daily and have been using daily for the past year and a half. So if it doesn't work for production code, it's just a toy, it's not really a tool. We also think it needs to be useful for everyone on the team. That means a junior developer can use it to help to learn and understand the code base better. A dev manager can help to prioritize tasks and review code much quicker and more efficiently. A designer can use it to send over designs in an actual code that fits in with your code base. And finally, it seems obvious, but this thing actually has to work, at least most of the time. These tools are getting better and better every day. We're really leveraging some of the advances in the frontier models and looking at what are the right tools for the right job and plugging in the models as appropriate. We're not spending a ton of time trying to train our own and catch up with the OpenAIs and Anthropics of the world. We're really trying to find the best place to use all of these tools in the right areas and focus more on that workflow level as opposed to trying to do the core research. All right, so let's take a look at a demo of JACoB. So when you first go into JACoB, the tool will look through your entire code and spend several minutes analyzing all of the files and understanding your code base at a very deep level. And this is key to making sure that JACoB understands and can complete tasks autonomously well across your entire system. So in here, this is based on the folder structure. Let's say you don't have a clean folder structure. We actually go through and we can understand it more at a meta level of how your code is structured and how to look into this. So for example, if we wanted to look into the user table, pull this out here. So we have various levels of detail here that we can use to understand and execute certain tasks. So we have a short snippet so that the AI can look at many code files and start to understand where the right code file might be. We have various diagrams. We have deeper overviews. We use TreeSater to understand all of the imports, exports. So if a file change happens in one file, we know where to make those changes in others. And then finally, we have the full code file for all these files. And this is useful, of course, if you want to do an edit or make changes. Now, let's say we wanted to go through and make a quick update to this code. There's lots of different ways to use JACoB. Now, one of the ways is something that looks very familiar to devs, and that's a chat. This chat is, it contains all of that context for your code base. So it knows a lot about your code. And so you can start to ask it questions across your code. It will understand that. We also plug in a lot of different models. So there's some models that are great for deep thinking, others for if you wanted to make a quick change. I'll just show an example of using a very fast tool called JACoB to make some very simple changes to our user table. Let's add some social networking fields to our user table. So it's going to go out and make some changes. There we go. So we've got a few different things here. Now, if you wanted to get a different view here, let's use our diff view. Now let's make some changes. Instead of calling them IDs, just call them usernames. So you can give just kind of high-level guidance, and you can kind of see here, sort of at the speed of thought, your code will change. Let's change Twitter to X. So we can change this here. And let's get rid of Facebook. Nobody's really using that anymore. All right, so you can see here, you can make some quick changes. It responds in real time. If you wanted to save this locally, you could do that. Here, you can also make commits directly into GitHub. Now this is a fun tool, but you guys have seen all of this before. Let's go into something a little bit more advanced. So here's our issue creator. Now, I have a real task I need to get done this week, which is last week we added Jira as one of the project management tools we integrate with. This week, I want to add a new tool, Linear. A lot of people are using Linear, so let's go ahead and describe this. I'm going to take a sec and give a very detailed overview of exactly what I want to be done. Let's add a new integration to a project management tool called Linear. We want to add a button on the settings page that allows you to connect to Linear. We'll go through an OAuth flow. We'll grab the access token and a refresh token and all the expiration dates, and then return back to the settings page and let the user choose a project. Now, once they choose a project, you can choose a board from there, and then add a button to allow them to sync their issues. Also, add a feature that will check every hour on the hour to see if there are any new features or any new issues added to that Linear board, and turn those into GitHub issues so that JACoB can work on them. We already have a similar workflow for Jira, so go ahead and use that as inspiration. All right, so it's a very detailed bit of work, and honestly, this is how I use JACoB on kind of a daily basis. Now, if I were to hand this issue off to a developer, they'd be pretty mad at me, right? Like this is, there's spelling issues in here. This is very high level. I'm not giving much guidance. And so one thing that we found is that AI is actually quite good at taking a high level description like this and converting it into a very detailed GitHub issue. So we provide feedback. The AI will tell us as humans, hey, here's the information that I need to make this better. Okay, so you can read through this. And then it also takes a first stab at what this issue should look like. So I'm going to read through this real quick. This looks fine. The one thing is it still has this thing for Dero instead of Jira. So let's just make sure we get that in there right. Okay, so that looks good. Let's go ahead and create that issue. And as you can see here, this is quite a complex issue, right? This is going to change multiple files across a bunch of different places. We need to understand what Linear, the API is. It needs to go out to the web. It needs to do some research. And so just like if I were to hand this off to another dev, they're going to spend hours kind of looking at this, trying to understand what needs to be done, doing a bunch of research behind the scenes. And as part of the JACoB workflow, this is one of the key areas where we think this is a big differentiator and something that we have personally found to be very helpful, which is to actually have the AI go out in the background and do a bunch of research for us. Now, this is an async process. This can take 5 to 10 minutes to do, but that's fine, right? This is an issue that comes in. Ideally, this will come through your project management tool like Jira, and JACoB can just work in the background for as long as it needs to get all the information to help to solve this problem. And when it's done, it will send you a quick email. It'll summarize everything that is done, which includes all of the back-end research and also the plan of how it should go about and do it. Now, you as a developer or as a dev manager, the main way to interface with JACoB is actually for your daily to-dos. Okay, so here's an example of that work that is currently ongoing. We don't have any research or plans yet. I'm going to look back at, I created one of these for a demo a few days ago. And here's what was actually done, okay? So we're going to start off with the research. It's going to go out and the AI is going to ask a series of questions to try to understand what information do we need in order to grab the right context here. I'm going to highlight one of these, which is how is the token storage implemented? And if you notice, it asked a question of how are you doing this in the past, right? This is how us as developers, we actually will go through and look at how things are done so that you have certain patterns in your code that are repeated. So you're not creating these totally separate ways of doing things. So your code stays very consistent, right? And if you actually read through this research, we have a table in our code called tokens. Now, you might assume that, hey, tokens, this is where all of the tokens are stored. This is actually a little bit of a legacy kind of table that's used for some other purposes. And what it did is it actually said, well, here's this tokens table, but we also have this accounts table. And notice in the accounts table, that's where we're storing this JIRA information, okay? So to replicate that pattern, we need to create a new migration file, right? This is another file that needs to be done. These are the fields we need to create, and then we need to update our accounts table appropriately to add it here. This is exactly the right thing. You can see it started to go down the wrong path with the tokens, came back to accounts, which is the right thing, and it went ahead and did that, right? It's looking for things like where are the cron jobs at? What does OAuth look like in your app? It's pulling all of this together and finally using that to come up with a plan, right? Look at this plan. This is a very detailed plan here. We're updating the tables. We're implementing some OAuth callback routes. We're adding the UI, right? There's a front end. We need to add some information here. It goes on and on and on. This is a fairly complex issue that would take 3-4 days for me to do. And I'm going to kick this off with JACoB and get a really, really good head start on that. All right, so the other thing about AI coding is, when an AI is off doing something, it's really nice to kind of have a sense behind the scenes what is actually being done, okay? So if you were to see this in real time, you could see, you could watch JACoB kind of work through these issues step by step. So we start in the terminal, see the commands. You can start to see some of the prompts that come out here. You can start to see the code that starts to be written. Okay, and you can walk through this and kind of see step by step what was done. And you can see here, again, we'll go into diff mode, all of the changes that were added. So changes to our environment variable, right? We added this whole new token listener and utility function for handling these. And one of my favorite parts is it went out and it did the work on the web to research. How is this linear API set up? This is kind of tedious work, something that I don't necessarily love doing, but the AI can do this, and I have actually gone and double checked this. This is the correct endpoint, these are the correct fields, and so this is a really good start. Now we're still at a point where this isn't going to be 100% perfect right off the bat. Things like the timestamp. The AI doesn't really have a good sense of what day it is today. I didn't specifically add that. And so I'm going to need to go in there and update that file name, things like that. But this just saved me days and days of work. And if you think about bigger picture, this is the worst it's ever going to be, right? These things are just going to get better and better. We're really focused on what is that right process, the right workflow, and the right UI to enable this shift in AI coding to best combine the capabilities of humans and AI moving forward. And as new models come out over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, really feel like this is a really solid way to interact with AI. And because we feel so strongly about this, we've gone ahead and open sourced this entire project. Front end, back end, everything is available. Apache 2.0, very permissive license here. Why do we do this? Right? Well, honestly, as a developer, this is something personal to me. AI is going to change the way that our job is done, full stop. It's already happening, and it will continue to happen. Now, we as developers have a choice. We can either leave that up to a few large, closed companies who are going to determine how this is done for us, or we can work together as an open source community and build tools that are done the way that we want these AI systems to work. I think every developer should have a say in this. This is our contribution to the conversation. This may or may not be the right thing to do long term, but I want to be a part of the solution here and working together with all devs to find a good way for AI and humans to collaborate. If you're interested in joining JACoB, we currently have a private beta. We just rolled this out a few weeks ago. So we're accepting just a handful of people who are willing to really dive in deep with us, give us some feedback, jump on a call or two to go through this. If you're interested in joining, please reach out. Kevin@psl.com or sign up on our JACoB waiting list and we'll get to you right away. Thank you so much. Take care.